You know, in the Bible is written that Moses, the voice of God said to Moses, one of your people is going to become the Messiah, and I'm going to save humanity through the Messiah. So Moses received all these laws, 613 to be specific, and the Jews were separated from the earthlings, and the earthlings had parties and did whatever they did, and the Jews were sitting in the corner following these strict laws, executing death penalties if you would violate some of these laws. Strict law system. So the whole humanity during that time was just barbaric, and then the Jews started the civilization, and then they got this Messiah 2,000 years ago. They got this Messiah, and the Jews rejected that. Back then the Jews killed their own firstborns and their children to get a blessing of a foreign deity, an evil entity, all kinds of things the Jews have done to anger God, and then they killed Messiah, and that was the final anger. This is the key of understanding. So the grace of God was removed from the Jews and given to the world. So we, the world, are eating the pie that God prepared for the Jews. That's called the age of grace. So under the grace of God, we had 2,000 years, a continuation of a system. In the West, every single village has a church. It is something that survives. Things go automatically. Things go easy. Things always seem to work. All right? And you see that now we're living in that time where nothing works. The family unit doesn't work. The economy doesn't work. The military systems don't work. This engine of never-ending growth is gone. And there are rivals everywhere and threats that cannot be overcome. It is distorted. You know, the Bible says that in the end of days, there's a storyline where then a couple of thousands of Jews are going to be marked by God. And then the Spirit of God will come down in the flesh, second coming of Jesus Christ, destroy the earth, destroy the earthlings. It's just going to be like that. And while God is going to destroy the earth and the earthlings, it's in the Bible, Book of Revelation, Book of Daniel, He's going to protect a handful of Jews. I think it's 144,000. While He's exterminating the earthlings. We're talking about this narrative called the end. So the story says that after this moment, the grace of God is going to return to the Jews, where it originally belonged, ladies and gentlemen. Where it originally belonged. So the more the Westerners and the old way of things is depleting, the closer you are to that timeline where the grace of God is going back to the Jews. The Bible says that one of the apostles of Jesus, and I mean the one that met Jesus in the person, there are apostles all over the place throughout the ages, but I mean the one that was eyewitness, said, "Do not be wise in your own eyes. God blinded the Jews." And why did He do that? Because He wants to provoke the Jew to jealousy. The Jews were the civilized people back then, and they had everything. A Jewish king back then had 700 queens and princesses from all over the world. That was accessible to a Jewish king. So imagine being a Jewish king and all the kings and queens and every monarchy in the world would come to you and subject to you. Stand in line. That type of power was ancient Israel. And then at one point, imagine you having that type of power. America does not have that type of power. America has a lot of power to socially condition the world, but not like stand in line, that type of power. So the moment you start soaking in that type of power, why do you need God? Just like how the Westerners, they don't need God because they have things and they have prosperity. They're in need of nothing. While the ancient Jews were in need of nothing. They become arrogant. So arrogant, they started killing their firstborns. The stories are in the Old Testament. So what you don't understand, what your clergy doesn't understand, what your political elite does not understand, is that we are actually enjoying 2,000 years of grace that was meant for the Jews. And at one point, the agenda of God with us is over. And then nothing works anymore. By the grace of God, it worked. Imagine that God has a plan. And then the West here, everything just worked. Let me tell you something. By the grace of God. If Satan talks with someone and tempts someone to do evil, and God needs to punish that sin, Satan could, in theory, go down to the earth and start talking with everyone, getting everyone to commit all kinds of sin, forcing God to judge that sin. And so the plan of God is cancelled. So Satan can stop the plan of God. During the age of grace, that was not possible. There's no more plan of God. It's starting to slowly move to this timeline called the Israeli destiny, where the punishment of God is slowly ending. The end game thing is playing out there. The more it plays out, the more dysfunction you will see in the West.